This weekend's Canadian Grand Prix will be the 10th race of the 2025 F1 season, and at this point, we've seen enough of Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari to get a pretty good idea of how the rest of his season might go. The hype around his arrival was massive, but that has been dampened after 9 okay-ish results. They haven't been bad by any means, but when expectations were for a title challenge, okay isn't good enough. With the 7-time world champion falling short of his teammates' performances again in Spain, one former Ferrari boss has laid some heavy criticism on the team's newest driver. Today, I'll check out why Mattia Binotto thinks signing Hamilton was a mistake for Ferrari, and why the Canadian Grand Prix is so crucial for Hamilton. So don't go anywhere. While Hamilton's first 9 races at Ferrari have failed to impress, the criticism of him has been relatively measured so far. Adjusting to a new team after over a decade at Mercedes is understandably taking time. The team around him is different, and how that team does things is different as well. How they take and give feedback will be different. They won't always understand what Hamilton wants in the same way that his old Mercedes team did. The race communication has been very suspect at times, though that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone considering it is Ferrari. More than just the team around him though, the car itself is a massive change from what he's used to. One of the toughest changes to get to grips with is the much spoken about brakes. The switching between carbon industry brake pads at Mercedes to Brembo with Ferrari has meant Hamilton has had to forget all of his muscle memory built at Mercedes and relearn how to feel his way through the braking zone. As well as that though, the change in engine makes a huge difference to those lap-time critical braking zones because of how each car handles engine braking differently. Yes, Hamilton is still driving an F1 car, but that's where the similarities end. Despite the big changes though, it hasn't all been bad news. The Briton has celebrated in this season's sprint events, winning in China and on the podium in Miami. He's also been relatively consistent, seemingly finding a good level of performance, which means he's always scoring points. However, you can't ignore the problems. He has been off the pace in qualifying, despite holding the record for the most pole positions in Formula 1. Hamilton has only twice outqualified Charles Leclerc, while only once beating his teammate on a Sunday. Having been consistently challenged by George Russell and Mercedes while the two drove together, Hamilton is yet again losing out to a younger teammate. His lack of form is now raising questions about whether age has caught up with him and his pace, with the Briton saying in his final season with Mercedes that he's definitely not fast anymore. Although he hasn't gone as far as repeating that this season, he has uttered the words "I'm slow" several times. His negativity about his performances has been hard to hear. While he has had plenty of criticism for Ferrari and their car, he hasn't been shy at calling himself out as well, often saying after races that he just couldn't find the performance and lap times needed come race day. Former Ferrari team boss Mattia Binotto, who was in charge of the Italian team from 2019 to 2022, believes the Scuderia signed 40-year-old Hamilton too late in his career. Hamilton is a certain age, he said. Ferrari took him when he was at the end of his career. The ideal would have been to be able to have it a few years earlier. While Binotto led Ferrari, Hamilton was often linked with the team. The closest he supposedly came was in 2019, when there were widespread reports that he met with Ferrari bosses. However, he made the call to remain with Mercedes, and Ferrari signed Carlos Sainz as Sebastian Vettel's replacement for 2021. Perhaps if Hamilton had moved to Ferrari sooner, things could have gone differently. In 2022, Charles Leclerc was in a championship battle with Max Verstappen, but his own mistakes, as well as some from Ferrari, stopped his challenge early. If Hamilton had been at the team at the time, perhaps things would have been different. While Lewis has been heavily criticised for his performances, a lot of that criticism has ignored just how bad Ferrari have been this season. Leclerc is also yet to secure a victory and sits P5 in the Drivers' Championship, 1 place ahead of Hamilton. Leclerc is also 92 points down on championship leader Oscar Piastri. Considering how strongly Ferrari ended last season, they were expected to be capable of fighting for a championship this year, but they've been completely out of touch with McLaren so far. The 197-point deficit to the Constructors' Championship leaders is an unacceptable failure when you consider where they finished 2024. Binotto believes that there is still more to come from Ferrari this season though. As an outsider, perhaps we shouldn't even judge, said the Audi F1 chief. It's clear that the performance on track and the results are not happy at the moment. but I know every single member of that team very well, and I know that they are good, strong and capable. They will be able to improve the car and do well in the future, and I think Ferrari can take some satisfaction for this year. Satisfaction for Hamilton at this point would be standing on the podium for Ferrari, and the Canadian Grand Prix could be the perfect place to do it. The seven-time world champion endured perhaps his worst race to date for Ferrari last time out at the Spanish Grand Prix, as he was outperformed by teammate Charles Leclerc in Barcelona. Having been left despondent by his performance in Spain, Hamilton this week returns to the scene of his first Formula One victory in Canada in need of a momentum-changing display. But before I talk about that, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch all the news and analysis from this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix, then make sure to press the like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. Speaking ahead of this weekend's race, Sky Sport F1's Karen Chandhok didn't hold back his criticism of Hamilton, saying that this weekend could be the most important of Hamilton's season so far and that it was crucial for him to get a result. Chandhok said, "It's starting to get a bit critical. We're coming into the second third of the season now and he's not finding the rhythm. He's not finding consistency, where week in, week out, he's not in a happy place in the car. In Imola, he was woeful in qualifying, then suddenly the car's brilliant in the race. In Monaco, he wasn't quite there. He was a chunk behind Charles throughout. There's got to be a degree of concern creeping in. When you look at Spain, the fact that Charles overtook him and drove away from him quite comfortably, even before we go into the different tyres and stuff later on. There are reasons for that huge deficit in performance that Hamilton had to Leclerc in Spain that I'll talk about in a moment, but Chandhok continued with his criticism of Lewis. If I was on the Lewis side of the garage, I'd be concerned. We're nearly halfway through the year now. We need to start understanding whether this is a fundamental issue, that we need to change the direction of the setup of the car. I'm not disputing that he's still got the ability, he clearly does. He's able to win races, we saw that in China, but they need to find a sweet spot for him, where every weekend he knows what he's got, and they haven't got that. He's still having too many good days and bad days. The fluctuations are too much. Hamilton has had his problems this season, no one's going to deny that. But in Spain, where he outqualified his teammate by a tenth of a second, his poor race pace wasn't actually his fault. Hamilton was incredibly down after the race, saying in a number of interviews that he just wanted to go home after a disappointing weekend. The team asked him to let Leclerc pass in the first stint, and the Monegasque quickly pulled clear of his new teammate. Hamilton made no reference to any issues during his media appearances after the race, but Fred Vasseur did say there was one, though he wouldn't give the details. Sky Sports F1 commentator David Croft says that learning there was a problem with his car on Sunday, rather than the bad result being all his own doing, might help Hamilton rebound for this weekend's race. He didn't have that race pace for the first two-thirds of the race, let alone the last one. You go away, you go back to the drawing boards, don't you? And you go and find what's wrong. If there was something fundamentally wrong with the car, then I think that offers a morale boost to Lewis. What are your thoughts on Hamilton at the moment? Do you think he'll come back and find a podium finish this season? Do you blame Ferrari for the problems? Or do you agree with Binotto that Hamilton was signed too late and is now too old? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you want to support the channel, make sure to check out our merch store at f1reverse.com to pick up some sweet F1 inspired gear. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.